In this video, we'll be laying out the timeline of the anime Godzilla universe in detail. All of this is directly taken from the prequel novel Godzilla Monster Apocalypse, the theater program, and the investigation report provided on Godzilla-anime.com. Without further ado, let's commence. Kamacuras, the first confirmed giant monster, appeared in Manhattan on May 4th, 1999, and proceeded to destroy the World Trade Center and devastate much of the city. At the same time, Kamacuras larvae appeared in the subway system under New York and preyed on people. Because Kamacuras appeared in a densely populated area, the military response was delayed, resulting in an estimated 2.5 million casualties. Kamacuras was finally destroyed near Portsmouth, New Hampshire, 72 hours after making landfall using bunker buster bombs. Dogora was the second kaiju to appear. It first made contact with the Russian space station Mir in the atmosphere, then appeared over the English capital of London in September of 2002. Dogora absorbed thermal energy from the attacks of the British military and moved on to Manchester. Dogora was eventually defeated when chemical plants throughout the United Kingdom and European Union mass-produced chemicals containing active ingredients from spider venom and sprayed them into the air. By the time Dogora was defeated after 2 days, major landmarks such as the Tower of London and Big Ben were destroyed and an estimated 3.9 million people were wounded or killed. Camoebas appeared in the Philippines just 2 days after Dogora's defeat. Another one, designated Camoebas II, later appeared in Guam. Anguirus appeared from the frozen soil of Siberia, while Rodan emerged from Paektu Mountain in November of 2005. Both monsters converged in Beijing and attacked the city, which the Chinese military responded to by commencing Operation Hedorah. Discovered inside a waste mine in Hebei in 1999 as a colony of sludge-like microorganisms that consumed chemical substances in the water, the creature was subsequently studied and converted into a bioweapon. Reconfigured into a giant black, mist-like figure with red and yellow eyes, Hedorah successfully killed the two monsters, but went out of control and proceeded to destroy Beijing and Tianjin overnight, then disappeared after consuming all of the pollutants in the area. The ordeal resulted in damage throughout the Hebei province and an estimated 8.2 million casualties. A year later, a second Anguirus, known as Anguirus II, appeared in South Africa. In February of 2012, the 10-meter-tall monster Gabora was discovered by Albert Ichiro Santos in the Amazon rainforest. The ugly monster slaughtered and tortured wildlife such as crocodiles. It was reported to have been injured in a thermite explosion and then fell into a river, where it was eaten by crocs and piranhas. Also in 2012, Megalon emerged on the west coast of Africa and made his way across the continent, destroying several small nations along the way. Some northern Africans subsequently escaped to Europe, though in the second half of the 2010s, the kraken-like monster Godzilla appeared in the Mediterranean and hindered refugee movement into Europe. Near this time, countries around the world began fighting back against monsters, with at least the USS Saratoga killing Ibera 3 in 2015. Dagara first appeared in late November 2017, and made contact with the American nuclear submarine Seawolf in the South Pacific Ocean. 2 weeks later, the US Navy, including the USS Saratoga, engaged Dagara in American Samoa and successfully injured him, but could not pursue him due to the presence of barium in the water. 3 days later, barium arrived at the port of Pago Pago, and eventually caused 1/3 of its inhabitants to die of bacterial infection. 2 weeks after that, on Christmas Day, Dagara approached Australia, but the Australian Navy did not attack out of fear of releasing barium into Australian waters. Dagara made landfall in Sydney and devastated the city before moving on to Newcastle. The government was thrown into chaos, and in the confusion gave the ill-advised order to attack Dagara. Dagara was fatally wounded and flew out to sea, where it died and contaminated the surrounding waters with huge numbers of barium. This led to a pandemic and famine later known as the Red Christmas Scourge, which by 2018 claimed the lives of 3 million people. Australia's waters became heavily polluted by the barium, and it received no foreign aid and eventually collapsed. An estimated 6.7 million people were killed or wounded in Dagara's attack. Godzilla disappeared for 8 years after heading into the Arctic Ocean. Next year, the Exile aliens made first contact with humanity, appearing in New York. The year after, Bilo Saludo aliens arrived on Earth, appearing above London. In the same year, Megaguirus and flocks of Rodan were reported to have regularly preyed on refugees in Siberia trying to leave in the railways. In 2039, the Earth Union, composed of humanity, the Exif, and the Bilo Saludo, was formed. New anti-kaiju mechs and superweapons such as powered suits, anti-nuclear energy bacteria, and Jaguar J were constructed with Bilo Saludo aid and began being used against giant monsters. G-Force launched Operation Eternal Light in order to reclaim the Atlantic from the kaiju. The underwater battleship known as the Goten, under the command of Captain Jigunji and Umberto Mori, engaged Manda in the Strait of Dover and successfully killed him. G-Force engaged Biollante in Normandy, with the underground combat vehicle Magara eventually destroying Biollante by burrowing into the nucleus in her root cavity. In October of 2039, the French military claimed to have killed Godzilla after bringing down a bipedal kaiju with back fins and a long tail. The kaiju was quickly identified as a different species dubbed Zilla, and it turned out that the creature asexually reproduced countless offspring, which overran the city of Ron. After great difficulty, G-Force eventually succeeded in wiping out the Zillas, which, while frail and susceptible to conventional weapons, had fertility as a strength. Meanwhile in Paris, Gorosaurus appeared following Godzilla's attack on the city. He was killed in December by the combined efforts of G-Force and the Bilo Saludo. Godzilla re-emerged in 2042. In the same year, the Provisional World Government was moved near Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and construction began on the two interstellar emigration vessels, Horatio and Aratrum. Godzilla is estimated to have caused upwards of 300 million casualties worldwide by 2044, as he appeared 8 separate times in 2 years. By now, only about 1.02 billion people were left. In 2045, the United Earth launched Operation Great Wall, a desperate attempt to stop Godzilla. 2,000 nuclear warheads are detonated near the Himalayas, opening a large fault that trapped Godzilla underground. However, by January 2046, Godzilla used his atomic breath to free himself. Soon, he broke through the Indian defense line, resulting in 200 million casualties, and then disappeared into the Bay of Bengal. Meanwhile, humanity and the Bilo Saludo began construction of Mechagodzilla, the ultimate anti-Godzilla weapon, in Hamamatsu, Japan. Godzilla arrived in Hamamatsu in March, and engaged in a decisive final battle with the United Earth. Godzilla is triumphant, and Mechagodzilla is abandoned before it could be activated. In 2048, 15,000 of the 700 million humans still living on Earth were selected by the United Earth's artificial intelligence, Omnielectio, to flee the planet aboard 2 interstellar immigration crafts, the Horatio and Aratrum. The Horatio set off to carry 10,000 passengers to Kepler 452, while the Aratrum carried 5,000 passengers to Tau Ceti. After 22 years of space travel, the Aratrum arrives at Tau Ceti, but finds its atmosphere to be completely uninhabitable for humans. Captain Haruo Sakaki and a faction dubbed the Earth Returnists seize political control aboard the ship and decide to use the ship's experimental hyperdrives to instantaneously return to Earth and attempt to defeat Godzilla using Haruo's Godzilla extermination strategy. The Aratrum emerges from hyperspace, but due to time dilation, nearly 20,000 years have passed on Earth. Haruo and his team land on the planet's surface, but find that a new ecosystem has developed around Godzilla. That's where part 1 leaves us off, and that's the timeline of the Godzilla anime universe. Thanks for watching.